Commander Lee Min-ho stared at the massive holographic display that dominated Earth's central command center. The room buzzed with nervous energy as technicians checked their equipment one final time. Today would change everything for humanity. 12 shimmering figures began to materialize in the air above them. The aliens appeared one by one, each more strange and intimidating than the last. Some had multiple arms, others floated without legs, and a few seemed to be made entirely of light. But the one in the center caught everyone's attention immediately. The tall, crystalline being stood nearly 3 meters high, its body reflecting the room's lights like a living diamond. When it spoke, its voice echoed through the universal translators with cold authority. Primitive species of Terra, the alien began, using the formal name for Earth. I am High Arbiter Velquan of the Dominion. Your kind seeks entry into galactic civilization, yet you have proven nothing to us. Minho felt his jaw tighten. They had spent years preparing for this moment, ever since humanity first detected the alien signals. Earth's greatest minds had worked together to decode their languages and establish communication. Now they were being called primitive. Captain Park Jizu stepped forward from her position near the diplomatic station. As Earth's lead diplomat, she had trained for years in alien cultural studies and negotiation tactics. Her voice remained calm and professional despite the insult. High Arbiter, we are prepared to demonstrate humanity's capabilities through peaceful cooperation, she said. We believe our species can contribute valuable knowledge and skills to the galactic community. The crystalline alien's laugh sounded like breaking glass echoing through a cathedral. The other council members seemed to shimmer with what might have been amusement. Several made sounds that the translators could not convert into human language. Cooperation. Velquan's eyes glowed brighter, casting rainbow patterns across the command center walls. No, young species. That is not how this works. You will face trials designed over millennia to separate the worthy from the weak. Most species fail within the first challenge. Dr. Kim Hyun-woo looked up from his tablet where he had been frantically taking notes. The xenobiologist had studied every piece of alien technology and culture they had encountered. Even he seemed shocked by the council's harsh tone. What kind of trials? Jizu asked, though her diplomatic training told her she might not like the answer. Velquan gestured with one of his 4 arms, and new holographic displays appeared around the room. They showed images of hostile worlds, complex machinery, and scenes of what appeared to be combat between different alien species. 5 trials await you, the High Arbiter explained. Each one more difficult than the last. The first will test your ability to survive in environments that would kill most beings. The second will challenge your technology and problem-solving skills. The third will examine your diplomatic abilities under pressure. The images changed to show massive space battles and strange alien cities. Minho studied each one carefully, his military mind already working on possible strategies. The 4th trial will test your combat capabilities against superior forces, Velquan continued. The 5th and final challenge will reveal the true nature of your species when forced to make impossible choices. The alien paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. Around the command center, human officers exchanged worried glances. These trials sounded more like a death sentence than a fair test. Other species have attempted these challenges, another council member spoke up. This one looked like a floating jellyfish made of metal. The Corvan Empire lasted 2 days in the first trial. The Zephran Confederacy never solved the second challenge puzzle. The proud Velkari warriors fell in the combat trial after destroying only 3 of our ships. Dr. Kim frantically typed notes about each species mentioned. If humanity was going to face these trials, they needed every piece of information they could gather. What happens if we refuse? Minho asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Velquan's crystal form seemed to grow even taller. Then your species remains forever isolated in this single star system. No trade, no knowledge exchange, no contact with the thousands of civilizations that span the galaxy. You will grow old and die alone among the stars, never knowing what wonders exist beyond your small world. The command center fell silent except for the humming of computers and life support systems. This was not the first contact scenario humanity had hoped for. They had dreamed of sharing knowledge and exploring the galaxy together with friendly aliens. Instead, they faced what seemed like an impossible test with failure meaning eternal loneliness. Jizu looked at Minho, who stood with his arms crossed, studying the holographic displays. The commander had led Earth's forces through 3 major conflicts and never backed down from a challenge. She could see him weighing their options. How long do we have to prepare? He asked. Preparation time is part of the test, Velquan replied with what might have been a smile. Some species spend years gathering resources and training. Others begin immediately. Choose wisely. Dr. Kim stepped forward nervously. Are there any rules? Any restrictions on what methods we can use? The council members made sounds that might have been laughter. Use any methods you possess, the jellyfish-like being said. Technology, strategy, cooperation within your own species. But remember, these trials have been perfected over thousands of years. They are designed to be impossible for any single species to complete. Minho looked around the room at his team. These were Earth's best and brightest, people who had solved problems others thought impossible. They had built cities in deserts, created technology that seemed like magic, and survived wars that should have destroyed them. Humanity accepts, Minho declared without hesitation. The council members exchanged what appeared to be amused glances, their various forms of communication creating a chorus of strange sounds. They thought they were watching another primitive species march toward inevitable failure. They had just made their first mistake. They had underestimated human determination. Lieutenant Choi Do-yoon pressed his back against the acid-resistant shelter as another wave of toxic rain crashed down on the Death World surface. The drops hissed and steamed where they hit the ground, eating through metal and stone like hungry monsters. He could hear the storm getting stronger outside their temporary refuge. 3 weeks had passed since his team landed on Kethmora, the planet the Galactic Council called the Graveyard of Species. When they first arrived, 20 of Earth's best soldiers had stepped onto the hostile surface. Now only 7 remained alive. Status report, Do-yoon whispered into his communication device, trying not to breathe too deeply. Even with their advanced filters, the air on this world could kill a human in minutes. Corporal Shin Mi-on here, came the crackling reply through the static. I found another water source about 2 kilometers north of your position. The liquid is contaminated with at least 12 different toxins, but Specialist Han Jin-young thinks he can purify it using those strange plant filters we discovered yesterday. Do-yoon smiled grimly. His team had learned to use everything on this deadly planet as a tool for survival. The native plants that looked like twisted metal trees actually filtered poison from the groundwater. The creatures that seemed designed to kill them could be hunted for their protective secretions. Every day brought new discoveries that kept them alive just a little longer. Good work, Mi-on, he replied. Set up the purification system and we'll move to your location after this storm passes. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Engineer Yang Ti-hyung floated in zero gravity as he studied the massive alien artifact before him. The ancient technology was larger than a city block and covered in symbols that hurt his eyes to look at directly. The Galactic Council had told them this device was thousands of years old, built by a species that had vanished from the universe long before humans learned to make fire. The power coupling doesn't match anything in our databases, reported Technician Lee Summon through the communication system. Her voice echoed strangely in the empty space around the artifact. But look at these energy patterns on screen 7. They're similar to our fusion reactors, just completely inverted. Ti-hyung pushed himself closer to the ancient machine, using small thruster jets to navigate in the weightless environment. His team had been working around the clock for 3 weeks, trying to understand technology that was supposed to be impossible for humans to comprehend. The Council expected them to reverse engineer the entire system within 30 galactic cycles. If the energy flow is inverted, Ti-hyung said slowly, then maybe the entire power system works backwards from what we expect. Instead of generating energy, what if it stores and redirects it? His team began running new calculations based on this theory. They had already made more progress than any species in the last 300 years, though they didn't know that yet. Back on the space station observing both trials, diplomat Kang Ji-woo sat at a round table between 2 groups of very angry aliens. The Velkari looked like giant insects with armor-plated bodies and multiple arms that they waved aggressively when they spoke. The Zhenpo resembled walking plants with root-like feet and leaves that changed color based on their emotions. Right now, those leaves were burning red with fury. For 800 cycles, they have stolen our trade routes, buzzed the lead Velkari through his translator. His mandibles clicked with anger as he spoke. They plant their slow ships in our fast lanes and reduce our profits by 30%. Stolen? The Zhenpo leader's leaves turned an even darker shade of red. Those routes were established by our ancestors before your species even learned to fly. You are the thieves who speed through our careful transportation networks. Jiwoo had been listening to similar arguments for days. Both species claimed the same trade routes belonged to them. Both had historical documents proving their ownership. Both refused to compromise even the smallest point. The Galactic Council had told her this dispute was deliberately unsolvable, designed to test whether humans could handle impossible diplomatic situations. But Jiwoo was beginning to see patterns in their arguments that neither alien species had noticed. Both species need the same resources, she explained quietly to her negotiation team during a brief break. But they are not actually fighting over scarcity. There's plenty of room in space for everyone's ships. They are fighting over distribution methods and scheduling conflicts. She returned to the negotiation table with a new proposal. What if we create a rotating schedule? The Velkari use the fast routes during their peak trading season, which lasts 4 months. The Zhenpo get priority access during their harvest period, which lasts 6 months. That leaves 2 months where both species share the routes equally. Both alien groups fell silent. They had been so focused on winning everything that they had never considered sharing based on their actual needs. High Arbiter Velquan watched all 3 trials from his crystalline command center, and his calm confidence was beginning to crack. The holographic displays showed human progress in real time, and what he saw should have been impossible. No species had ever survived on Kethmora for more than 2 weeks. The longest record was held by the mighty Corvan Empire, whose warriors lasted exactly 13 days before the planet's deadly environment killed them all. Yet these humans had been there for 3 weeks and showed no signs of giving up. The ancient artifact had stumped the galaxy's greatest scientists for 3 centuries. Entire civilizations had sent their best engineers and researchers to study it, only to give up in failure. Yet human technicians were making breakthrough discoveries almost daily. The trade dispute between the Velkari and Zhenpo had been carefully designed to be unsolvable. The Council had spent decades creating a diplomatic puzzle with no possible answer. Yet this human negotiator was finding solutions that made both sides consider compromise. Velquan's eyes glowed brighter with growing irritation and something else he didn't want to admit. Fear. These primitive humans were not just succeeding at the trials. They were rewriting the rules of what the Council believed was possible. Admiral Seo Jihan stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable Asterisk, watching the tactical display as 50 Council warships slowly surrounded his small fleet of 12 human vessels. The 4th trial had begun, and it looked hopeless from every angle. The alien ships were larger, faster, and equipped with weapons that could tear through human armor like paper. "Admiral," called his communications officer, "the Council fleet is moving into attack formation. They're giving us one final chance to surrender." Jihan studied the enemy positions carefully. Each Council ship was 3 times the size of his largest vessel. Their weapons had been tested against dozens of other species over the centuries. No alien race had ever lasted more than an hour in direct combat against the Galactic Council's military forces. "They expect us to engage head-on," observed Captain Oh Suyun from the bridge of the Asterisk Resilient Star. Her voice crackled through the communication system as she analyzed the enemy formation. "Look at how they are positioned. That's the same pattern they used against the Corvan Empire and the Zephyran Confederacy. They want us to charge straight at them so they can demonstrate their superior firepower." "That's exactly what every other species tried," Jihan replied, a small smile crossing his face. "And that's exactly why they all failed. We're not going to play their game by their rules." He opened a channel to all 12 human ships. "Listen carefully, everyone. Remember our mission parameters. We don't have to win this fight. We don't have to destroy their fleet. We just have to survive for 72 hours. That's all." The Council commander sent a final warning transmission. "Primitive humans, prepare to face the same fate as all who came before you. Your destruction will be swift." Instead of responding with threats or battle cries, Admiral Jihan gave a simple order: "All ships, scatter formation. Execute random pattern delta." The human ships suddenly burst apart in seemingly random directions, each vessel heading toward a different point in space. The Council fleet, expecting a frontal assault, found themselves shooting at empty space where the human formation had been just seconds before. "Use the asteroids," Jihan commanded as his ship dove toward a massive rock floating nearby. "Gravitational slingshots, just like we practiced." The Indomitable Asterisk whipped around the asteroid, using its gravity to accelerate beyond normal engine capacity. The other human ships followed similar paths, bouncing from rock to rock like pinballs in a cosmic machine. Soon they were moving faster than the Council ships could follow. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we're exceeding their pursuit speeds by 40%. They can't catch us while we're using these maneuvers." Instead of fighting, the humans were dancing through space in patterns the aliens had never seen before. They turned the asteroid field into their playground, using physics and creativity instead of raw firepower. Meanwhile, millions of kilometers away on the barren moon of Zerus 7, Colony Commander Park Minji stood on a ridge overlooking the most lifeless landscape she had ever seen. The council had chosen this location specifically because nothing could survive here. No water, no atmosphere, no plant life, and certainly no resources that could support a human colony. Called Engineer Kim Won-ho as he climbed up the rocky slope toward her position. His environmental suit was covered in gray dust from the moon's surface. The soil analysis is complete. The news isn't good. Minji turned to face him, though she already suspected what he was going to tell her. Let me guess. Nothing useful in the ground? Well, Won-ho said carefully, there are trace minerals we can extract. Iron, copper, some rare earth elements. But they are buried deep under layers of rock and radioactive sediment. We'd need to dig at least 50 meters down just to reach the first usable deposits. The colony commander looked out over the endless gray wasteland. Other species had tried to establish colonies on similar worlds and failed within weeks. The council expected humans to build a thriving settlement here within 2 months, something that was clearly impossible. Then we dig, Minji responded without hesitation. What's impossible is just another word for hasn't been done yet. She opened her communication channel to the rest of the colony team. Everyone, prepare the deep excavation equipment. We're going mining. On the other side of the solar system, in a research facility orbiting Proxima Station, Dr. Yoon Haeyoung stared at the equation that covered an entire wall of her laboratory. The mathematical proof had stumped the galaxy's greatest minds for 8 centuries. Every line of symbols seemed to violate the basic laws of physics. The numbers don't make sense, she muttered to herself, erasing another failed attempt at solving the puzzle. According to this equation, energy should be able to create itself from nothing. That breaks every rule we know about the universe. Dr. Lim Dongyuk looked up from his own calculations at the next workstation. He had been working on the same problem for 3 weeks, and his hair was starting to turn gray from stress. Maybe that's our mistake. Maybe we're trying to force the equation to fit our understanding of physics instead of letting it teach us something new. Yoon stopped erasing and turned to look at her research partner. What do you mean? What if the constants aren't actually constant? Dongyuk said slowly, the idea forming as he spoke. What if the basic rules of physics can shift based on dimensional frequency or quantum states? What if this equation is showing us a situation where the normal rules don't apply? Yoon felt her heart racing as the implications hit her. You're saying this isn't a mistake in the math. You're saying it's revealing a completely new kind of science. 3 trials were running simultaneously across the galaxy, each one designed to be impossible for any species to complete. The Council had spent centuries perfecting these challenges, making sure that no single race could possess the skills needed for all of them. But humans weren't approaching these tests with brute force or superior technology. They were using something no other species possessed in such abundance, creative stubbornness. When faced with an impossible situation, they didn't give up. They changed the rules. High Arbiter Velquan's crystalline form trembled as he watched the tactical displays from his command center. His perfect tests were being torn apart by creatures who refused to accept that something couldn't be done. These humans were rewriting the rules of every challenge he had created. Commander Lee Min-ho stared at the holographic display in Earth's command center as the final transmission from the Galactic Council finished playing. The silence in the room was deafening. Everyone understood what they had just heard, but nobody wanted to believe it. They've engineered a quantum cascade that will destroy either Earth or the 5 worlds of the Kethmoran Alliance, reported Dr. Kim Hyun-woo, his voice shaking as he read the technical specifications. The energy buildup is already beginning in both locations. We have exactly 4 hours to make our choice. The display showed 2 sets of coordinates in space where massive energy collectors were drawing power from nearby stars. One set surrounded Earth and its moon. The other surrounded 5 alien worlds where billions of innocent beings lived their daily lives, unaware that they had become part of the Council's final test. We can only stop one cascade, Dr. Kim continued, his hands trembling as he worked his controls. The energy requirements are too massive. If we try to stop both, we'll fail at both and everyone dies. Through the main viewing screen, they could see live images of the alien worlds. The Kethmoran Alliance consisted of 5 different species who had been humanity's allies during the previous trials. There were the peaceful Velkari farmers tending their crystal gardens, the gentle Junpo families teaching their children to sing with the wind, and 3 other species that had welcomed human diplomats with friendship and curiosity. Sir, Captain Park Jizu said quietly, her diplomatic training telling her to remain calm even as her heart raced, the other species are sending us messages. They're asking what's happening. they don't understand why their suns are getting brighter. Commander Minho closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of 2 entire civilizations resting on his shoulders. When he opened them again, High Arbiter Velquan's cruel message was playing through the speakers. Choose quickly, humans, the crystalline alien's voice echoed through the command center. Save yourselves, or save strangers. This is the ultimate test of your species. Will you choose self-preservation, or will you waste your lives on meaningless altruism? Every other species has chosen to save themselves when faced with this decision. The holographic timer showed 3 hours and 47 minutes remaining until both cascades would fire simultaneously. In space above Earth and the alien worlds, massive energy collectors continued to draw power from the local stars, building toward a release that would turn entire planets into cosmic dust. Get me Admiral Seo Jahan, Minho ordered. Within seconds, the Admiral's face appeared on the communication screen. Behind him, the bridge of the Indomitable Asterisk was busy with activity as crew members prepared for whatever orders would come. Admiral, what's our fleet status? Minho asked. We have 63 ships in fighting condition, sir, Jahan replied. Colonel Nam Jihoon is coordinating ground forces on both Earth and the Kethmoran worlds. But Commander, if we split our forces between 2 locations, we won't have enough firepower to stop either cascade. Dr. Yoon Haeung looked up from her research station where she had been frantically running calculations. What are our options? Minho asked his team. There are no options, she replied, her voice heavy with despair. The energy requirements to stop both cascades simultaneously would require at least 200 ships with full nuclear arsenals. We have 63 ships, and most of our nuclear weapons were used in the previous trials. Engineer Yang Taehyung, who had been quietly working at his station, suddenly interrupted. Unless we don't try to stop the cascades at all. Everyone in the command center turned to look at him. What do you mean? Minho asked. Unless we don't stop the cascades, Taehyung repeated, his mind racing through possibilities. What if we redirect them instead? What if we change where all that energy goes when it fires? Dr. Kim shook his head. The energy collectors are locked onto their targets. The cascades will fire at Earth and the Kethmoran worlds no matter what we do. But what if the targets aren't there when the energy arrives? Taehyung asked. What if we move the planets? Move the planets? Dr. Yoon stared at him in disbelief. That's completely impossible. The gravitational forces alone would tear apart both solar systems. Not move the planets, Taehyung explained quickly. Move the energy. If we position our ships in exactly the right locations, we can catch the cascade energy and redirect it into empty space. It would destroy our ships, but both civilizations would survive. The room fell silent as everyone processed this idea. They were talking about using their entire fleet as a giant mirror to redirect enough energy to destroy solar systems. Every ship that participated would be instantly vaporized, along with everyone aboard. How many ships would we need? Minho asked quietly. All of them, Taehyung replied. 30 ships at each cascade point, plus 3 ships to coordinate the redirections. No survivors. Across the galaxy, the decision rippled through human forces like an earthquake. On the alien worlds, Colonel Nam Jihoon received his orders and began the largest evacuation effort in galactic history. Every human transport ship, cargo vessel, and personal craft was pressed into service to move as many aliens as possible away from the impact zones. Admiral Jahan positioned the human fleet in 2 groups, with ships taking coordinates around both Earth and the Kethmoran worlds. Volunteer crews worked to modify their ships' deflector shields into energy collectors, knowing they were building their own funeral pyres. High Arbiter Velquan watched the human activities from his crystalline command center, his confidence beginning to crack. This is impossible, he snarled as he monitored the tactical displays. No species has ever attempted to save both targets. It cannot be done. The response came from Commander Minho on Earth, broadcast on all frequencies so every species in the galaxy could hear. Impossible is where we do our best work, Velquan. You wanted to test humanity's true nature. Now you'll see what we're really made of. Humanity had made their choice. They refused to choose between themselves and others. Instead, they chose to sacrifice everything to save everyone. The quantum cascades fired simultaneously across the galaxy, releasing enough energy to vaporize entire solar systems. 2 massive beams of destruction shot through space at the speed of light, aimed directly at Earth and the 5 worlds of the Kethmoran Alliance. For a brief moment, it looked like the Galactic Council had finally succeeded in forcing humanity to choose between themselves and others. But instead of destruction, something unprecedented happened. The deadly energy beams struck networks of human ships that had positioned themselves in perfect geometric patterns around both target areas. Each ship's modified deflector shields caught a portion of the cascade energy and redirected it toward empty space, like mirrors reflecting sunlight away from precious flowers. The human vessels vanished in brilliant flashes of light as they absorbed energies meant to destroy planets. Ship after ship sacrificed itself, their crews knowing they were trading their lives for the survival of billions. The Valiant *, the Defender *, the Hope *, 31 ships around Earth and 32 ships around the alien world simply ceased to exist, taking their crews with them into the void. High Arbiter Velquan stared at the tactical display from his crystalline command center, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. According to every calculation, both targets should have been reduced to cosmic dust. Instead, Earth hung peacefully in space, its blue oceans and white clouds unmarked by the devastation that had been aimed at it. The Kethmoran worlds continued to orbit their suns as if nothing had happened. Status report: Commander Lee Minho requested from Earth's rebuilt command center. His voice carried the weight of lost friends as he spoke into his communication device. The command center itself had been damaged by energy feedback from the cascade, but human engineers were already working to repair the systems. All worlds secure, sir, reported Captain Park Jizu from her diplomatic station. Her hands shook slightly as she read the reports coming in from monitoring stations across both solar systems. Casualties are significant, but both civilizations survive. The cascade energy was successfully redirected into the empty space between galaxies. The numbers were sobering. 63 human ships had participated in the mission. 31 had been completely destroyed, taking nearly 15,000 crew members with them. But Earth's 8 billion people lived on, and the Kethmoran Alliance's 40 billion citizens continued their daily lives, most never knowing how close they had come to extinction. Within hours, something extraordinary began to happen across the galaxy. The species humanity had saved during the trials started transmitting messages to Earth. The Kethmorans sent recordings of their children singing songs of gratitude. The Velkari offered to share their advanced agricultural technology. The Zhenpo promised to teach humans their methods of space navigation. But the messages weren't just coming from the species humanity had directly saved. Dozens of other alien civilizations, ones that had been suppressed by the Galactic Council for centuries, began broadcasting their own requests for alliance and friendship with these remarkable humans who had refused to abandon anyone. The Council's hierarchy is collapsing, observed Dr. Kim Hyun-woo from his science station. The species they called lesser are refusing to acknowledge dominion authority. They're saying if the Council was willing to destroy innocent worlds for a test, then the Council doesn't deserve to rule anyone. On the massive space station that served as the Council's headquarters, High Arbiter Velquan found himself facing a room of empty seats. One by one, his fellow arbiters had left to deal with rebellions on their own worlds. Species that had obeyed Council orders for thousands of years were suddenly demanding human mediation for problems their former rulers had ignored for centuries. The final blow came when Velquan's own people, the crystalline beings of the Dominion homeworld, sent a formal request asking if human diplomats could help them establish better relations with their neighboring systems. His own species was abandoning him for the creatures he had called primitive. "You have passed no test," Velquan transmitted to Earth, his voice lacking all of its former arrogance and authority. "You have simply shown us what we had become. We created trials to prove our superiority, but you have proven that superiority means nothing without compassion." The response came from Admiral Seo Jahan, who now commanded a combined fleet of human and alien vessels working together on rescue missions throughout the galaxy. His voice was calm but firm as he spoke to the former High Arbiter. "The test was never about proving we were worthy of your approval, Velquan. It was about proving we were worthy of theirs." He gestured toward the dozens of alien ships now flying in formation with human vessels, their crews working side by side on humanitarian missions. Dr. Yoon Haeyoung added her own thoughts from the new Galactic Research Cooperative, where human and alien scientists worked together to solve problems that had puzzled the galaxy for millennia. "You wanted to test our strength, but strength isn't about crushing others. Real strength is about lifting them up when they fall." Velquan's crystalline form flickered with colors that indicated deep emotional turmoil. Around him, the Great Council chamber sat empty except for himself. The Galactic Council, which had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, was dissolving. In its place, something new was growing. The Terran Alliance, a cooperative where every species, regardless of their technological advancement, had an equal voice in decisions. "What becomes of us?" he asked quietly, his voice barely audible through the communication system. What becomes of those who created such cruelty? Commander Minho's response came not with anger or triumph, but with the same compassion humanity had shown throughout the trials. The same thing that becomes of everyone else in this galaxy, Velquan. You get a chance to be better than you were yesterday. Across the galaxy, human ships began relief missions to former council worlds. They carried medicine to planets where healing had been restricted to the ruling classes. They brought technology to civilizations that had been kept deliberately primitive. Most importantly, they brought hope to species that had forgotten what it felt like to be treated as equals rather than subjects. The galaxy was learning a new truth about these strange humans from the small blue planet. Their greatest weapon had never been their advanced technology or their stubborn refusal to give up. It was something much simpler and much more powerful, the absolute refusal to leave anyone behind.